Mario, thank you very much for sitting down with me. You're here representing the international treaty, the SEA Treaty. Can you share a bit of the developments that are going on in the governing body? What are the key agenda topics on that meeting?
Thanks. First of all, thank you for the invitation, and for sure next meeting of the governing body will be quite tough for all contracting parties.
Where is that?
It will be held in Kigali, Rwanda, at the end of October, from the 38th until 3 of November. Many issues will be discussed, but in particular it will be focused on the coverage, of the multilateral system. So how to facilitate the access to the material from public domain and private domain and private sector. So this is the main topic in which that we are focusing on. And in addition to that, there will be also other issues important, in particular a programmatic approach on funding strategy of the international treaty, as well as two important program of works, one on the global information system that we are establishing on the existing networks, and last but not least, the program of work on sustainable use.
Okay, that's great. You mentioned the coverage of the multilateral system. I know you're working on a revision of the multilateral system. What key developments can you share in that revision process?
Okay, first of all, let me tell you that the Secretariat is providing support to the contracting parties and to all the stakeholders on this very, I would say, challenge goal. And it's quite challenging because after the treaty entry to force in 2004, now we are approaching to revise the number of crops covered by the... There is a specific request made by Switzerland, and it will be discussed during the governing body. As well as there are some proposals that will be presented by two co-chairs of a working group, and this will affect in particular the package of measures that should be taken into account in the next biennium. In particular, how to enlarge which crops will be included in the Annex 1, and what, and in particular, the subscription, model that should be apparently in the private sector is looking with an eye interest about that. Yeah. So this is in a nutshell, more or less, what will be discussed. For sure, the final decision will be taken by the governing body. Now we have 144 contracting parties, and many NGOs, civil societies, and the representative of the seed sectors and private sector will be over there. So I think that the world of the different stakeholders are involved in this process.
Excellent, excellent. I'm sure that private sector is eagerly awaiting the increase of crops on Annex 1. Obviously, can you already share a little bit of the details of the proposals? For example, Switzerland.
The proposal made by Switzerland is quite interesting, but they are making reference to enlarge the number, the crops for sure. As you can see, and as the majority of the people are well aware, most of the vegetables, varieties, and crops are not included in the list of crops.
I know.
So this can really represent, I would say, a very interesting step forward. Obviously, the impression and the feeling of the Secretariat in this case is to reach a consensus on that. But it will take, I think, time. Most probably in the next biennium will be established, if the governing body will agree, an expert group on such important issue.
You mentioned private sector. How is the involvement of private sector in your discussions? Do you have private sector opinions there?
Yeah. in the working group, but also in other processes in intersessional period of time in between the two governing bodies. For example, ISF, European Seed Association, are very active. For sure, there are some idea and suggestions that should be, I would say, shared with the members of the European Seed Association as well as the ISF. Recently, the president of the ISF presented in the working group 24 companies that which agreed in principle to subscribe the subscription model with a specific request, but is a really interesting, I would say, gesture that has to be considered by the contracting parties. Yes.
Yeah, good. Okay. What other contributions of the private sector could you envision to, to make the whole system more efficient?
Directly, for sure, the production of varieties and also the selection, the continued selection and breeding is one of the main important elements that can be taken into account from contracting parties, because the seed sector and the private sector is involved in such topic. This is something that directly can implement and can endorse the system, but there are also indirectly benefits, like, for example, the private sector can work close to the government, local governments, and try to create the condition to, to facilitate the access to their material and to exchange the material between the private and the public domain. So there are experiences on that, and one of the main important elements that we are taking into account in the context of the treaty is the public-private partnership, in particular on pre-breeding, and this should be analyzed in the next biennium, and most probably will be presented as an outcome of a study on 2019, that can benefit both the parts, both parts. Yes.
So, Mario, we are here all the way in Riga at the ASA annual meeting. Why is it so important for you and your department to come to such private sector meetings?
It's a kind of field, and when you have the possibility to exchange the point of views with the people that live the field, is always relevant and important. It's not just my impression, it's the impression of the staff of the Secretariat. So to take into account the different opinions of the stakeholders from NGOs to the private sector is our work. And here I have to say that I went through, the different stands and so on, and it's very impressive, interesting how the people and the companies at different level are working. I saw that they are interested in any case to have a facilitated access. This was originally something in mind of the people that started working in the establishment of the international treaty, and for us is also an opportunity to really understand what is the sentiments of the private sector, because we are going to have now in 1 month, as I said, the next governing body, and to be frank, I think that is a very I would say good relationship in between the Secretariat of the International Treaty and the ESA. So, and last but not least, I have to mention that we are going to launch a next call for proposals for benefit sharing projects, and $300,000 came from ESA, and part, and ISF also gave money. I don't remember exactly the amount, but around $50,000. So if you consider that we are going to launch a call about $5,350,000 are coming from the private sector.
Okay, that's a very nice contribution. Okay, good. Thank you, Mario.
Thanks to you, Marcel.
Okay.